So, I don't really have much of an intro for this reading. Kind of just gonna have it be like an out in the open free read. Um, I'm gonna shuffle, and if there's any poppers, I'm gonna go with it. I usually don't go with it, but let's see what's up. You could call this like an unlimited highest possible messages reading or something like that. Spirit got jokes. Spirit got jokes. Whew. Okay, let's see what you got. The Three of Swords in reverse, coming out of heartbreak. Three of Pentacles in reverse, coming out of a third party situation. King of Cups, showing mastery of your own kind of emotional synaptic system, I want to say. Some sort of like recurring circulation of emotional synastry, for lack of a better phraseology. Yeah, Judgment in reverse. Judgment in reverse is all about kind of giving yourself space and credit. You know, things take time, right? You know, it took time to come out this heartbreak, and you didn't even know how much time it would take, because you know, life works in layers and it happens in layers, right? So we bury things, only to have them, you know, come up, you know, later on, somehow, some way. Yeah. And, you know, who's to say if those things ever, you know, physically, tangibly go away, you know, if we're talking about memorabilia or something physical in the world, maybe that resource could, you know, run out. But, you know, and then we're talking about, like, you know, quantum rabbit holes of mind and thought where, you know, shit, you just gotta live with certain things, you know, for the rest of your life, and can absolve yourself from them, you know. That's the kind of shit that I like to talk about. That being said, though, you know, it's kind of like surprising yourself with some sort of artifact of, like, you know, mythology, where you need a process somehow in some way so as to come out of it eventually. And you know, interesting to say of you know, mythology, because you know, we all have a mythology, right? We all have some sort of, you know, great chronicle that we're writing. You know, I think if you're doing life good, you take some time to look back at it, and I think it's good to have some sort of mythos of self, because that's kind of what's carrying you on this long odyssey that is life. And, you know, for whoever's reading this is right now, if you're watching this, you know, maybe you're in that zone right now. Maybe this is for you, where you're coming out of some semblance of heartbreak. And then maybe you're even wanting to extend that by coming out of some sort of third-party situation. You know, work-wise or personal-wise or something. And you're able to do that by, you know, showing some sort of mastery over, like I said, we have like these emotional circuits or something. So that doesn't mean that you're always going to be like a Zen, master about everything, and you're just going to be like just completely open and vulnerable 24/7 in your life, because you'd be hard pressed to be, some sort of functioning adult and being able to do that. But I think what happens is that you can learn to control some sort of mastery over the input-output response of what's going on pertaining to your emotion. So this King of Cups, when I see that, I kind of get that idea there. I don't know what this guy does. I don't know what he's into, but he's got it figured out. So I think that's all you really need. Sometimes. And I think the only way that you can, have something figured out is you need to have had some sort of problem to fix or solve or something. And in order to have some sort of problem to fix or solve and to come out of it, you need to have had to come from somewhere, hence, lineage and mythos. So it's good to remember that. It's good to see how far you come. And I think that's what this Judgment card is. And then you could have, moments where, you open up boundaries for yourself and you open up limitations for yourself and I don't know, you free yourself from some sort of like emotional setback or something that limits you, maybe emotionally. You kind of free yourself from that. You get over that somehow, some way. It's kind of like mental magic or something. And I think this Judgment card in reverse kind of gives you the authority to do so, because it's a reversal, so it's an internalization. Okay, I always read these reversals as internalizations of self-critique, criticism, judgment. You don't want to put some sort of stranglehold on yourself when you're going about this life business here. So you got to be able to open up in some way, shape, or form. And I think you getting over this heartbreak and this third-party situation could be, obviously work-related, as that's what the Three of Pentacles is always in reference to. But that's going to help you get that better sense of self and what you've been through, and have your feelers out there for a sense of when you can be expansive and unlimited, So and that's kind of like what the Six of Swords is talking about, and the reverse is, it's all about moving to some better place internally again. Maybe some sort of semblance of youth and innocence that you're protecting here, as I think we all are with that embryo in the reverse. But sixes are all about moving to, something more beneficial, something more pleasurable than where you came from. But I think in order for that to be reflected externally, you got to move there internally, and I think that's what the Six of Swords is about. Granted, we don't always make moves like that. We don't always make moves where, they're reflective of our better interest internally. They're probably not coming from a good place internally. It could be like a running away from something, but for all intents and purposes here, I see this as like it's a good thing. It's a good moving away from, because it's internal. It's not a running away energy. I don't think I'm getting here. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I told you I was gonna take these poppers. You got the Knight of Cups in the upright. This says perception and revelation. Okay, so I think you're seeing clearly now with this Knight of Cups here, which is interesting because, I think you're, in reference to what's going on with this card, you're kind of seeing who's actually, bringing some sort of offer to you. The Knight of Cups is usually about some sort of deliverance of some emotional solace or something here. And I think you're starting to see that, who brings the cup to you. You may be a person that usually brings the cups, brings the trophies, brings the trophy case with them. Probably embodied in some way, shape, or form. I mean, after all, you're the King of Cups, right? So you tend to magnetize that, some sort of emotional mastery. And if, I don't know, if you don't have any knights around you, then it's definitely revealing itself. Hidden treasures, there you go. We're talking about mythos. And, hidden treasures buried, heartbreaks buried in the past, And this is the secret of nature. So, the word transmography comes to mind. Some sort of semblance of, the something there'ness as reflected out in nature, as we kind of attribute meaning, and then how that could be reflected in our own mythos and where we come from in our journey. But point being, you could have a cup, some sort of divine cup, being presented to you on your travels and journey here. Somebody could be looking up to you as the Knight of Cups here. So that's what's up there. Yeah. And it's going to be up to you whether you want to take that cup or not. So, again, this is all within the context of what your current situation is. It could be some sort of like parting gift or something. But that being said, let's continue. Let's carry on here. Onward. You got the Four of Wands in reverse. Some people read this as like after the party, cleaning up the dishes and stuff and putting away the food. I kind of talk about this card in the sense of again, some sort of like internal recognition, some internal celebration, celebratory vibe of your own um, your own journey. You know, it could be a marriage of self too. Um, you know, Jim Carrey said that depression is when your avatar is tired of the person that you're trying to be, or something like that. So, yeah, and I think in order to go on from, you know, maybe this heartbreak or maybe this third party situation, they probably had you bummed out some way, shape, or form. Um, in order to do that, you got to be whole. You got to be married to the self, you know, in some way, shape, or form. Um, that requires some sort of unification of dueling energies. Um, I don't know how that works, but I'm thinking like dueling pianos. Like how, you write down on a note like what piano song you want. You want one person to play, and then I guess they got to come in at the right key or something, or the right rhythm, like double Dutch or something. Um, but yeah, and I think, you know, that being said, what we're talking about is we're talking about harmony, harmonization, um, of those dueling energies here. Um, and as always, as above, so below, as within, so without. So I wouldn't be surprised if the magician comes out here somehow. Um, that's your radio signal, your radio turn signal. What I like to imagine as, you could only like strengthen the signal once you get beyond or past any of the barriers that are keeping it from being strong, and usually kind of the usually the thing that helps with that sort of thing is some sort of internal harmonization. So right now you could be you know you could be probably approaching this as if it's some sort of labor, but really it's not labor. I think it's more so just an allowing of things to play out. I think when you allow things to play out, um, then it's no longer labor here. Because the reason I say that, and it's not for nothing, you got this Empress in reverse. I always imagine her as giving birth, new beginnings. Proverbially, maybe literally, someone's in labor. Shout out to Taurus and Libra here. So yeah, I think maybe you got to endure labor, because that's a part of it, but then once you get over these patches, you have these points of just open air, like bam, like there's your part, bam, and this guy is just full blown, in all of his everything. So keep doing that. Keep working with those energies, because that's the thing that's putting out your signal. That's the thing that's putting out your wave, your whatever it is that you work with. Keep doing that, and don't take it for granted, because that's kind of your whatever that is for you. If it's a literal ritual or something where you're able to kind of just be open internally, first and foremost, to yourself. Because a lot of times what we do is we internalize, some sort of like external equivalency of a standard of how, we should talk to ourselves, or, and maybe that's supposed to get us somewhere. But yeah, you gotta take those labors, until you figure out that that's not the way, maybe. And I think this is all on the philosophy of, obviously we all have our own unique frequency, which is like a thumbprint. It's our heart's frequency, So if you're dimming down that heart frequency signal, then it's almost as if you're not going to magnetize what you're meant to magnetize. So I think that's why they say, be wary about, like who you surround yourself with, and in your habits and your choices and your lifestyle, because essentially it's kind of like, it's either like strengthening or weakening your signal. And I think maybe that's what magnetization is, depending on what you're in the field of expertise for and about. Like a podcaster needs listeners or something like that. A teacher needs students, things like that. A twin flame needs a soulmate. So there you go. But again, to tie back, that only happens when you have that internalized marriage of self, that dueling pianos, harmonization internally of your radio dial frequency, tone, signal type thing. And that only happens if you recognize those pockets where you're able to be that full bloom, and that only happens if you figure out what's keeping that. There's a quote about something about you're not trying to like create love or something. You're trying to figure out all the roadblocks on the roadmap of what's keeping you from that love that's already there, or something like that. And I think that's kind of like I think that's like this spiritual thing that we're all doing. I think that's like the spiritual war that we're all part of here in this 2020 year of our Lord, 21st century schizophrenic reality that we're living in right now. Is all this doom and gloom and fear and terror is all it's doing is kind of trying to fulfill some sort of like prophecy of why we shouldn't be open and vulnerable. And guess what? Well, like open vulnerability is what leads to evolution. So, and maybe revolution. Maybe that's what's going on right now in some way. Revolution means to revert back to the old ways. When kings, strayed off too far, we got to revolt and we got to go back to the old ways because this person's getting too much, pull around here. And so that's what we're doing, probably some way. Some sort of spiritual revolution, some sort of spiritual going back to the ways of, I don't know. I don't know if it's peace. I don't know what it is. But all I know is that those moments in history is where you're allowed all that, rapid growth and production and stuff. So, suffice it to say that we have like 5 planets in retrograde right now, and if retro and revo isn't a spinning image of each other, then I don't know what is. So that could be the labor. We're giving birth to this whole new world. I don't know when all these other planets go forward. I think it starts with Mars in Aries, fittingly enough. Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, first house. Mars being the planet of action. Maybe taking action externally, changing these concrete externalized entities. It's kind of like establishing a new habitat, which kind of reinforces our internal reality. And vice versa. It's kind of really hard to reinforce first an internal reality if your external reality isn't kind of reaffirming that. So you want to set up, your surroundings so as to reinforce the internal, dare I say, paradise that you want to live in. Because it's all happening inside, right? And I think that's why we suffer some sort of like cognitive dissonance and some sort of pain of what our reality externally is versus what it is inside, because there's that discord there. And now we're talking back to harmony, right? That internalized harmony. And I think the next step of that internalized harmony is to be able to see it reflected in your external world. So yeah, this is kind of some sort of environmental psychology that we're talking about. All right, Spirit, highest possible messages for what's going on. You got the Chariot. This is incoming revolution, incoming victory. It's also the mask of, I don't know, dare I say success? Something like that. Cancerian energy, 7, a spiritual number. All numbers are spiritual numbers, but 7 is the spiritual number. 7 heaven. 7th heaven. So yeah, it's rapid change, and that doesn't surprise me. I think we're still in Cancerian season. I saw the 10 of Cups flash by, so maybe you're moving towards that harmony, towards that externalized version of harmony, which is what the 10 of Cups really is which the 10 of Cups really is about, is that externalized harmony. So that's good. That's good that's coming in fast, really. They say change happens really fast. So look for you to hitch your wagon to that. It's like, when you finally do give birth or something like that, some sort of crowning. Could be that as well. You got the King of Cups here. Somebody recognizing you as the King of Cups here somehow, some way. Yeah, you got disaster averted here with the Tower. Speaking of crown here, someone striking you. An idea, an aha moment that was too big to bear. Could have split you down the middle, right at the seams, but you averted it because you probably kept your cool, right? Okay. Moon card. No one knows what the moon card is. Nobody. There's not one person on this planet that knows what the moon card is about. Some people say it's fear, and I think this is a clarifier. Clarified by the Queen of Pentacles. That's a super interesting combination there. Some people say it is like fear coming to a light. Some sort of internalized emotion. Pisces card. That moon card in reverse here. There's a lot of things you could say about the moon. I'm sure there are more concise things to say about the moon. But, you could have had some fears about, some financial situations. You could have averted financial disaster somehow, some way. Spirit, highest possible messages, clarification. What do I think the moon is? Maybe seeing the truth of things. If you're coming out of the moon, chances are you're going towards, the sun. And the sun illuminates things. We did have that full moon eclipse here this past 4th of July. So yeah, there could have been something there. And you kind of see the truth. Maybe in regards to your situation fiscally. Maybe in regards to a Queen of Pentacles, which is Sag energy, Capricorn energy, Virgo, Taurus energy. I think those full moon eclipses illuminate a lot more than we're able to kind of dig out of the top drawer, so to speak. That junk drawer. It's buried treasure, right? It's a part of your mythos. That's pretty cool. So yeah, you avoided disaster. That's a win-win to me. And I think, that Chariot coming in kind of signifies that you won out on something too, that you probably didn't even know about, that you probably weren't even aware of. Which is good, man. But I kind of attribute all that kind of stuff to just being a good person at the end of the day, inside and out. You ain't gotta worry about anything if you're just a good fucking person. So yeah. Four wands. 4 wands again. In the upright now. So you're making that. So yeah, this is essentially, you gave birth to it now. So when I get a double confirmation, I get to flip a card up in the upright of my so choosing and liking. I just made that roll up right now. So yeah, I get to do that with the Empress now, and then now you can birth something real and true now. And then there's your double confirmation here with that 4 wands. So boom. Some sort of false prophet or some sort of something false you avoided or averted, or you saw the truth of, that helps you continue to strengthen your signal and go find where you need to be. It's all well and good here, and you need these phases of being in the dark and seeing the light. That's what life's all about, right? Alright, let's get one more angel card. And then, let's see, what's that? And I think, just to kind of summarize an overall, message, you gotta really trust with what you're going with here. When it comes to your own particular, mythos. Because you know where you came from. You know where you're coming from. You know where you're going. Yeah, clarity here. Yep. It's that Ace of Swords here. Right there. Clarity. Funny fact about the Ace of Swords here, this is Minor Arcana Tower. Right here. So you can write that down in that tarot book you're writing. Wow, this shit's full circle, man. That's pretty cool. But the good thing about this Ace of Swords here is this is a sword that you can use. This is actually the divine giving you that clarity, that full moon, lunar eclipse clarity, seeing it into the daytime, daylight, sunshine, right here with the sword of truth here, which frees you from foes, internal and external, somehow, some way, right? Anything that's keeping you from, here's this in the upright, by the way, speaking of full circle. Signal blast, solar flare type energy. So, yeah, this is badass. This is super fucking cool. Let's see. Whereas, this, you zigged right when you should have. And whatever semblance of relying on this, you trusted yourself enough to do that, right? So now it's saying, well, then just amplify that, right? Faith and intuition. We're all born with it. And because you did that, as opposed to, this, where the divine is like, oh, no. I'm clearly telling you. So now I gotta intervene. So you avoided that. And because that, you're bestowed this, again from the divine. But now as some sort of sword of truth that you could apply to articulate yeah. It's pretty cool, man. And, by articulate, it's not necessarily communicating that to someone else as much as it is of understanding your own mythos and where you're coming from, your own mythos, mythology, As a great Al Pacino says, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing, living and dying. So yeah, that was dope. That's what's up. Yeah, magnetization right here, pulling in that highest reality. And the faith that that could still be possible from, all that you've come from right here. What am I pulling in next here? That's kind of what that judgment is about in this context here. And that's where that freedom of will is, is the better judgment, the better knowing yourself well enough to know what that next thing is to manifest. Because you're on this journey, right? And if you're in a desert and you're trying to, pull in air or pull in fire, like you're not using your better sense. So this is saying use that better sense here from that clarity to pull in the next logical thing. I mean, that's what the Ace of Swords is about, too, logic. So there you go. Trust yourself. Boom, that's what I got. Alright, if you want a direct one-on-one reading, link below, feel free to reach out. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this. Like, share, subscribe on all social media platforms. Yeah, that's what I got. So peace, love, and light to you all. Holler at your boy.